Welcome and good evening. Thank you for joining us here tonight for a very informative learning lab. For any new folks in the room, my name is Sarah. I'm one of Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake Senior Coordinators. And before we get started, we're just going to breeze through a brief tech orientation that you'll see here on the next slide, just to ensure a pleasant experience for tonight's program. And of course, we always ask that you keep yourself muted during this presentation, or if you have to get up and move around, we please ask that you turn off your camera because again, this session's being recorded. So if you don't want your picture shown, you can just simply turn off your webcam now. And last but not least, if you need to reach one of our staff or have questions during tonight's program, there's going to be some interactive time towards the end and possibly midway through where we'll be putting in questions and answering those from the audience. So just use the chat function to reach out and we'll get with you. Next, you're just going to see a photo from our 15th anniversary dinner. Thanks to everyone that came out to make it. Next, you're going to see a program lineup here as we're going to open with a reflection, followed by some information about our organization, again, for new folks in the room. And then we'll get to meet our speakers. We'll hear their presentations, followed by, again, some Q&A, and close with a prayer. So please join me while muted. We're going to open tonight's learning lab with reverence for God's creation. And that's just a lovely picture of a native plant. God of love, we praise you for the magnificence of creation. We marvel at both its grandeur and the intricacies of its smallest microscopic life forms. As we reflect on the creation, help us to take in the true significance. This is our work in which you have invested deeply of yourself. It is a costly outpouring of your creativity, so we ask you to instill in us a proper reverence for all that you have made, a genuine respect for all environments and all creatures. Lord, we are in awe of the formidable power of nature, but in these times, we also come to comprehend its complex fragility. So thank you so much for taking that moment of reflection. We're going to shift gears and just share some gratitude for our funders and sponsors that make this work possible. As you can see on this slide, I've got a lot of folks to thank. The next slide, you'll just see IPC as an intricate piece of this puzzle. We connect organizations with faith congregations, environmental agencies, and other non-government agencies to do environmental stewardship work. And as you can see on this next slide, that's really important because we want to pause right here to remind folks how big the bay is. This our beloved bay. We like to think of ourselves in the same bathtub, right? So we always say, do unto others upstream as you would have those downstream do unto you. And this covers 6 states, is the largest estuary in our country. That's a mix of salty and brackish water, and the 3rd largest in the globe. So all the work we do is to benefit the bay. Next, we're just going to make a few mention of a couple of resources we have. There's going to be some links coming in the chat right now. Anyone that hasn't signed the pledge yet, we'll invite you to. Next, we just want to make mention of a training that's happening in October. It's our last training of 2026. Next, I believe you'll see our resource page. If you don't know where to get started, that's a great place. And next, we're about to start our program and hear from a very beloved partner of IPC's. But first, we're going to just make a quick mention of tonight's topic. And we're going to tie in the reason why stormwater runoff and flooding is such a big issue. As we see this development trend in Maryland, there's a lot of forests being replaced with pavement, impervious surfaces, and congregations like Empowering Believers tonight is going to share a really, really important story and how they've partnered with us and others to address flooding on their property. Tonight, we are honored and joined by Apostle Larry Lee Thomas. We are so grateful that you're here. He's incredibly been celebrating over 30 years of pastoral leadership and 40 years in ministry. So he is a very important person. He's the presiding prelate of Empowering Believers Church, Apostolic International Network, providing spiritual oversight for many churches across the United States and the world. His commitment to both local and global ministry is what drives him, and he serves many roles. And so I feel like there's not enough time to adequately give such a proper introduction to what's, we'd like to call a good friend of IPC. So I'm going to turn it over to Apostle Larry Lee Thomas, and we're going to hear his story at Empowering Believers Church. We've got some slides to follow. Apostle Thomas, please.
Amen, and grace to God. Grace be to God who has given us victory. And thank you, Sarah, for such a great introduction. And and you are already looking at the beginning. When we built this wonderful relationship, this is what our church grounds look like. I said it took about 10 minutes. We had one of those um, heavy rains, and it allowed the water to be from one end of the road we call Spencer Road all the way into what we call East Howard Road. And on this property, on this wonderful day, was the beginning of our opportunity to be able to get some much needed work done. And we are so grateful for the interfaith partnership as well as the PSA, which is the shared group that helped us to manage to start getting some help on our parking lot and on our grounds. And I always like to say from the beginning, as you could see in the picture, I needed a boat. I needed a boat so I could be able to make sure I even got into the church to be able to continue to do the great work that is necessary. So again, Sarah, we thank you for allowing us to have this conversation when we're talking about the resilience, and then we're talking about now what I would like to use the word, what the sustainability looks like. What does it look like to be able to create the partnerships that is necessary to for our church to be restored? That's where you see some of the pictures of the restorative work as we have been doing on various occasions with the um, gardens that we have, with the rain barrels that we have, and all of the things that were put on our property so that we can be part of what we call healing our earth. So we are grateful again for the partnership. We're grateful for those that comes out and volunteer to help maintain our gardens. On our property, we have approximately, I would say, three gardens. Maybe now we make it four, because when we look at the work that needed to be done to make sure that we did not have standing water to look like what it has been, I always like to use this analogy now when I talk about the levee did not break. Because when we look at our gardens and look at now how we can maintain, when you see a group of volunteers from Woodland Job Corps, who has been great partners who come in on various times to help us. And again, at the beginning of this year, they was there trying to make sure our gardens and everything look well, taking care of the trees that we have planted, making sure that our plants are watered, and then also having a great opportunity to, when watershed comes in, they give me a tutorial called making sure I identify the plants, because I have a great habit, or when they say weeding, I'll be potting up the plants and keeping some of the weeds there. So I am grateful for the partnership that has happened over the years. And that's why those strong words that we are hearing about our faith, and then an opportunity to know that our faith plays a key role in the work that we're doing. And how can it reach our faith community? I keep saying, or as long as I think I may be involved, but we're still the new kids on the block, especially when it comes to what we call the minority or the African American community and churches. This is something, again, that we are learning to appreciate the help and the support that we have, and especially when it comes to our faith. That's why most of the gardens that or that we have on the property, we call it the Eden ministry, that reminds us of the beginning in the Garden of Eden, where the plants and the vegetation was placed there. And we know how important it is to make sure that we can take care of this earth through the plants that can be planted. And now I keep learning good words like invasive planting and all of those wonderful things. And we as a ministry, as a community, has been working faithfully towards those things. And today, knowing that it's called the National Day of Prayer, and we know that people all over the land, so especially here in the U.S., are having different prayer sessions going on. And we want to believe that through prayer, that we, as the stewards of the earth, can continue to keep the mindset or the advocacy of the work that we're doing before everyone. And that's why when we talk about restorative justice and all of those other good words that we have to use during these crucial times. And I always get an opportunity to look back at some of the um, like from the Chesapeake Quarterly, sometime in the beginning, they talk about the road to empowerment. So in the field with the faith-based environmentalists, and again, when Jody Rose was there part of the helm, and we had this conversation, it gave us more energy and more strength to continue to do the work, finding the partnerships with One Water Partnership. And even, I don't know, Sarah, if you had any clips of um, a a video that was taped on the property, just giving us an opportunity to share, and again, with all of those that have joined us tonight, and I have found out that sharing and partnership has great value. When we can think about we're doing this project or that project, I want you to think of it in the aspect of what I call building relationship. And then we'll be able to have that one sound and that one voice that I believe is very important when we're talking about bringing healing, bringing strength, using this great word called resilience, so that we can be able to fight what I call the good fight of faith, because we know, especially as we say believers in the faith community, without faith, it is impossible to, we say, please God, but to please God is to how can we assure that others can get connected to the good work that is being done. And from an environmentalist perspective, we know that this earth can be healed from, I always say, especially from the infrastructure, because that's where our base is, mostly in a wonderful community. And when they first got started, they showed me uh, walking through the community where there was a path there where streams used to flow. But now being close to the Molly Neck um, River or the creek, and even in the Freetown community, that years ago there was great springs of water flowing through our community, and now we have to think about the runoff that comes off of our pavements and into our storm drains now that flows into the Chesapeake Bay. So when I think about fighting the fight, the good fight of faith, that when we get involved with healing our earth, we get involved with a great word that I like to always quote from the book of Psalms, chapter 24, that reminds me that the earth is the Lord. And down through the years, whether it's through vacation Bible school, summer camps, different opportunities in which we had to share that good message. And by myself having a great opportunity for the last 21 years to serve as a missionary, visiting the East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, been into the DRC and Central and Rwanda, and begin to also share what the faith community can do. It has brought me great joy. I'm trying to make sure that I stick in that time limit of in which I will have this presentation, but I like to encourage all of those that are hearing. Um, what like to use these words: hold the line. Your advocacy is very important. We also be doing an event called Smoke Free Holy Ground that deals with um, uh, though the danger of tobacco, secondhand smoke, and the vaporing, and all of those other wonderful things that goes on. And I can remember even through this when we began this project, and we walked around our communities trying to pick up those what we call cigarette butts. We by the time we went about we would say less than a block or a half a block, we had over six cases of, butts that was thrown on the roadway. So when we talk about healing the earth, we have to have what we call that holistic approach. We have to be able to minister to the people, to those that are what we call going through their addictive process, but yet still give us hope and knowing that restoration is possible. And when I look at, as you can see in the picture now, when we could look at the our church and look at our grounds, we are living testimony, as you have seen in the picture at the beginning when you seen the flood. And then now I could say the flood has subsided.
And it is
We're
a beautiful picture. It's actually a video, Apostle Thomas. I can't thank you enough. You're such a natural speaker, but I'd be remiss if I didn't share this with the audience. You were so kind to send this along too, and I did embed it. So I'd like
please.
everyone just to take a moment. This is a wonderful One Water Partnership video. It's some of the work that we're doing in Anne Arundel County. And yeah, Rebecca, please hit play.
Caring for God's creation. Ever since the introduction to the Interfaith Partnership, we have carried that we are trying to heal our earth. On this wonderful property, one day it rained. There was water from Spencer Road to Howard Road, and it has covered this whole yard. And I was saying that I needed a boat. And that's when Interfaith came and answered that call.
One Water Partnership. We're lucky to work with IPC to implement green practices and environmental restoration at faith communities throughout Anne Arundel County. So working with IPC and watershed stewards, we have been able to slowly but surely start to kind of seep up and treat some of that water through a series of best management practices. And the goal, again, is for that water, instead of going right into a downspout and into the local creek, that the water is going to slowly infiltrate, restore the watershed, and all of the pollutants that come out of that water through the plant roots and the soil layers will be filtered out, and then eventually it makes its way very slowly back to the watershed.
That's the power of the faith community.
Yeah, and I love that video so much. Thank you so much, Apostle Thomas. And I hope you don't mind hanging out if you have time. If not, I completely understand, but there might be some questions at the end. So thank you so much again. I actually have the pleasure of meeting another, what I would like to call a close friend to IPC's, from meeting at the Watershed Forum in West Virginia, hearing a presentation on the Anacostia. I'm a local resident, I'd say myself, but Prince Georgian mainly, while Dr. Dennis Chestnut's a proud native Washingtonian. And so I don't have time to actually list out all the awards. That's how many Dr. Chestnut has. But let's just say that he's a master carpenter, a vocational educator with dedication to youth development, community improvement, and a civic duty, which has led to his involvement in many conservation projects and kind of how we got introduced with IPC. So please, everyone, welcome Dr. Dennis Chestnut, and go ahead and we'll just highlight you so everyone has a chance to see you. And then we can just stop share.
Okay, let me unmute and good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited about what I'm seeing taking place with IPC and the great work that's being done throughout the area. So my name is Dennis Chestnut, and I am on the board of directors of the Ward 7 Resilience Hub Community Coalition in far northeast Ward 7 in Washington, D.C. And I'm really excited to say that yesterday we were able to cut the ribbon on a build out of our Resilience Hub in Ward 7 that we actually have been working on as far as the actual build out portion for the last couple of years. That's finally completed very beautifully. And another step in the direction of what we started approximately 9 years ago, and that was to bring a resilience hub to Washington, D.C., a pilot resilience hub that would be a model for what could be done, not just in Washington, D.C., but through other parts of the area. And some of you may be wondering what a resilience hub is. Well, first of all, we know that we face a lot of various kinds of climate-driven challenges. So I don't need to go too deep into that. That is actually the driver. We listened to the apostle, and there was some great testimonials that I heard. You know, my hats off to the congregation for that work that they're doing, and that work is important because it reaches the number of people. So that's like a splash in the pond, so to speak. What the congregation and the community there are able to see take place at the church, they can replicate at their own homes and in their communities. And this is the process that we all have to engage ourselves in order for us to manage these challenges that we're facing. So not to, I would really like to direct everyone to our website and also to the website of the Fauntleroy Center in Ward 7. I'll put that information into the chat so that everyone will have it. And then I'd like to invite anyone who has the opportunity to come out and see it for yourself. I mean, we had Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton there yesterday, representatives from our mayor's office. I think they counted somewhere in the area of about 200 people came through to see the ribbon cutting of this great facility. And what makes this facility a resilience hub? Well, I will just say that in the event of disruptions of any kind, even power outages, um, uh, and various others, this facility will be able to shift into a 24-hour operational mode, providing electricity, backup battery power, water filtration. They've also completed the build out of a wonderful kitchen and other amenities in there. I mean, it's really kind of amazing to see what took place there. But it's actually the centerpiece of the resilience work that we're looking to do in that part of Ward 7, which is in Washington, D.C. Uh, there is a floodplain, a 100 and 500-year floodplain, and the Ward 7 community where this is located, approximately 75% of the properties in that part of Ward 7 are located within the 100 and 500-year floodplains in Washington, D.C. So flood risk is a real driver of the work that we look to engage in. And we're taking a lot of different forms of how we would do that. So I will, as I said, put that information into the chat. We are, when I say we, the Resilience Hub Community Coalition are working to engage with other communities who are interested in exploring establishing the Resilience Hub, really understanding more of what makes a Resilience Hub an actual Resilience Hub, and then demonstrating, through the work that we've done at the Fauntleroy Center, hopefully can cut through and save time, and folks can get a lot of things done a lot faster than we were able to, because now we have this model that you can use and use it as a tool. So I know that we have some other speakers to come on this evening. So what I'll do is I'll put the information that I spoke to you about in the chat. I also will stick around to answer any questions that anyone may have. And I really appreciate it and thank you again. One other thing before I do turn it back over to Sarah. I have the honor of receiving a honorary doctorate degree this weekend at the commencement of the University of the District of Columbia. And this year, the University of the District of Columbia are giving 3 honorary doctorate degrees. One is to our mayor, Muriel Bowser, and the other 2 are going to, one to me, and the other is to my wife, Xandra Chestnut. And we're receiving these because of just what I'm speaking of, not just because of this Resilience Hub, of which we've fortunately gotten the mayor and the council, everyone behind this effort. But it's through the work over the years that we have really dedicated and committed ourselves to restore the health of the Anacostia River, to improve the quality of life for the residents in this watershed, and to really engage our youth and get them involved in this process, because they are the ones who have the longest amount of time to have to deal with whatever this situation is. So they need to be a big part of it. So we do commit ourselves to working and developing our youth and getting them involved in this stewardship work that we're doing. So again, I thank you, Sarah, for inviting me for this session tonight, and I look forward to talking to the community when we get a chance to. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chestnut. And what a cool just idea this is. And I have to make mention because one of the churches, I put it in the chat, and along with, I believe, the Fauntleroy and another, the Community Resilience Hub from Ward 7, just the concept design so people can just get a vision of what it actually looks like as a visual. And just want to make mention that Still Meadow, we've been having the privilege of working with them for many years. Baltimore, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, was the first in the nation to pilot this concept of resiliency hubs. And congregations are like prime to take that action on for the community, as they're often the most trusted space in the community. So the link for Still Meadow is in there too. We always want to connect you, Dennis, with the congregations, not just in your region, but all over that are interested in this initiative. And thanks for talking more about it. So before we introduce our last speaker for the evening, I'm kind of a science geek. Those who know me know that's my thing. I love research and annoying my family with terrible statistics. But because we're talking about this, and it is an increasing trend that we're witnessing across the region, I was astounded to know that the Chesapeake Bay program, in partnership with other researchers, kind of have quantified just 1 single inch of rain falling in just 1 acre of pavement generates more than 27,000 gallons of runoff. So that's why seeing flooding in a lot of communities is not a surprise. And again, we have the pleasure of having one last speaker here for the evening. It's a really great privilege. This individual has not only been a long-term resident, he's a long-time congregant and in the music ministry himself at Scotland AME. We're so lucky to have him. He's actually, at church now, so we'll get to hear from him in the very building. He's part of a really firsthand seeing this major project of restoration that has gone on in his neck of the woods in Rockville. And we're going to spotlight you right now, Chuck Williams. If you don't want to go ahead and unmute for the audience, we want to hear about your experience and what your community's done. And we're looking forward to continuing to support those efforts. Thanks so much, Dennis, for putting.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good evening to everyone. My name is Chuck Williams. I am a member of the Scotland AME Zion Church. We're actually located in Potomac, Maryland, right on the Rockville border. I also happen to be the co-chairperson of the Board of Trustees. So our responsibility is that of stewardship of the land and the property. So we do what we can in order to keep that going. Just to give you some perspective, our community and the property, there lies a small creek. That creek happens to run into the Potomac River, which is a tributary for the Chesapeake Bay. So that's how we are connected. The Scotland community was founded 1880 by formerly enslaved African Americans. So that's 15 years after the Civil War. And the community has thrived ever since in Potomac. Throughout the years, they've had situations where they've dealt with Jim Crow. They've dealt with many things, pre-civil rights issues that they had to deal with. At one point, the community actually had some developing that took place. And the church here was a very integral part in the planning and organizing of that community and the homes in that community. At one point, the county was actually ready to condemn the property, primarily because they said that there was no plumbing. And there was no plumbing due to the fact of the, the people who looked like me and the treatment that they received. I do want to say that in today's environment, the current county administration and the current county council has been far superior in terms of giving assistance to the community. They have acknowledged some of the wrongdoings of the past, and a lot of it happened to be just benign neglect. So when we speak of restorative justice, we are in the process of doing that right now. In respect to the church, what has happened is the land was donated to the church back in the early 1900s. I believe it was 1915 or somewhere in that time range. The church was founded in 1905. They met in someone's home. Once the land was donated, then there were actually members of the community that built the structure by hand. So they put together, whatever they could, and they built this building that we've had for some time now. There were a couple of things that happened that were instances that led to the situation that we found ourselves in. The first is that the church is located on 7 Locks Road in Potomac. The county decided that they wanted to straighten the road out. It was kind of a curve. They wanted to straighten the road out, and they did. But in the process of doing so, they elevated the road so that it stood 2 feet above the land that the church happened to rest on. The other instance was there's a hillside, and there was some residential development that took place on that hillside. Unfortunately, timing-wise, it took place before the county had created a department of permitting services, so there was no one to have foresight as to what may happen in terms of stormwater management, flooding and things of that sort. So the church spent many years being a victim of floodwaters. When we had a strong rain, it's just a matter of we kept sump pumps in our basement because we continuously had to pump water out of the basement whenever that happened. Primarily because, again, on one side, you had a 2-foot elevation of the road, you had a hillside on the other side. So the property and the land where the church rested was like a soup bowl when it came to major storms that took place. In 2019, we found ourselves with a major storm that came in. It flooded the church. In fact, it flooded it so much so that the water levels reached the ceiling in the basement. That resulted in, I guess, a soaking, if you will, of the foundation, and one side of the church gave way. So it was difficult. Obviously, it was pretty much near impossible for us to be able to come in to meet, to worship, and things of that sort. So we found ourselves kind of on the road. We were gracious enough that there were many churches in the community that allowed us to use their space for worship. And I do want to also give thanks right now to our pastor, the Reverend Dr. Evelina Huggins, because she did everything she could to keep the congregation together. This was an instance where people could have spread out and, just gave up. But she did everything she could to keep the congregation together, and we applaud her for that. I also want to give thanks because when this event happened, we had a gentleman who apparently saw this on the news and said, I recognize that place. I go past it every day at work. And one day he stopped his vehicle, got out, walked around, got back in his vehicle, went to work, and he gathered his staff And he said that I, went around to this property and I looked around and I think we can help this church. That organization was Glenstone Museum. And we give thanks to Mitch Rails and Emily Rails, who are the founders of the Glenstone Museum. For those who may not know, the Glenstone Museum does a lot with art, but they also do a lot with land management and how to construct properties in a way that it complements the existing land as opposed to doing a lot of demolition work. They put us in touch with quite a few people. And again, we worked with the county council, we worked with the county executive, and we were able to get the ball rolling so that we can start a building restoration process. As we sit right now, we are in the building again. We've actually had an expansion of the building. So we have the historic building that's there, that was deemed historic by the county. We also have an expansion that's a new sanctuary, which is where I sit right now in the conference room. And please forgive me if you hear music going in the background. That's our men's choir getting ready to rehearse for Mother's Day Sunday. In addition to that, we received outreach from several areas, the Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake being one of them. And we're grateful for everyone who stepped up and sort of helped with this project. We now are looking at a situation where we have some stormwater management systems in place. We've had a construction company come in, and what they've done is they've elevated the land that the church set by 4 feet so that it's 2 feet above the road. And this way, if there is stormwater runoff, it runs off into the road and into the existing sewage system. We will be meeting with the folks in the community that's on the hillside and see what we can do so that we can look at some sort of stormwater management from the waters that come down from the hillside. Subsequent to that, as a matter of fact, it was just about a year or so ago, we came back into our location, and we've been here since March of 2025. We sponsor now a Juneteenth celebration festival, and last year we wanted to share a documentary here in the church, only to have a major storm happen the night before, and the church was flooded. Power was knocked out, and even though the construction team that had put something together put pumps in the basement so that it would automatically pump out all water, once the power was knocked out, there was nothing to pump out the water. So we're in the process right now of raising funds so that we can get some backup generators so that if this situation happens again, we'll be able to have the water pumped out and at least keep the land dry. We also are looking at ways that we can partner not only with Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake, but with the community for the creek that runs alongside of our property that feeds into the Potomac River. And we want to look at ways that we can keep that property managed, that we can restore it, and that we can do everything we can to be good stewards of the land. In the past, the history in the past has been that there were people who would wash their cars in the creek. There were people that would come by that were outside of the community that would work on their vehicles, and things got dumped into the creek. So we've done what we can so that we can prevent that from happening. And we look forward to being able to be good stewards of this land and this property, and hopefully be able to provide some solutions for keeping the Chesapeake Bay clean and pure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chuck. You really should be an announcer, but it's no surprise that you're in the choir. You just have a very eloquent voice, and I couldn't have, happen to be captured by the story. You also really did such an awesome job with providing not only history, but some contextual information as to just environmental injustices that have happened, especially in the state of Maryland, right? And I often find communities we're going into, especially like I'm in a bowl. In Prince George's County, the county almost in general is in a bowl. And so this idea of overdevelopment and not addressing already weakened systems in communities that are already facing the brunt of most of these issues. So there's definitely opportunities. Again, we're really looking forward to kind of deepening our partnership with you too and see how we can further those efforts. There's a link in the chat I encourage everyone to go to. I love the name of it, Second Century Project. So if you got touched by the story, please feel free to get some more information about this project. But it's really hard to believe that hours just kind of flown by. I want to be respectful because everyone gave such a great presentation about such a really important topic that, again, isn't getting talked about enough. And I think I failed to mention that stormwater runoff is actually one of the major contributing like pollution factors towards the bay. So the fact that it has such a big negative impact, but there are practices that we can help put on our property grounds to mitigate some of those issues. Yeah, we always love doing that. So thanks so much, Rebecca. If you don't mind just putting up the closing slides, I'm going to open up the floor. If anyone has some questions, I'll take a look in the chat to see if any hadn't gotten answered, and we'll give a few minutes before we close with this short and sweet prayer. So thank you again for talking about such a great topic. And I do see a lot of resources, but please feel free to unmute at this time if you did have a question and wanted to have the chance to talk with one of our speakers. I think one thing I'll mention again was some of this just overall negative impacts, not only to the property, right, but the building and the community. This is why I'm very excited about the Resilience Hub program. And I've also been a part of some conversations and happening in Prince George's County where they're really looking at places to provide that stopgap. So it's good for all congregations to know that there's possible funding to do that as well. Because imagine in a power outage, yeah, I'm kind of like in the swampy side. And so I'll just say sometimes I lament when I can literally look over and see everyone else has power, but I don't for extended amounts of time. So looking into solar and backup generators, I think is just a practical next step that most people want to take. So yeah, I didn't see any hands raised. Please feel free to raise your hand too, or like I said, just unmute. We have a few more moments and then we'll close with a prayer here. Thanks so much, Rebecca. And if you don't have a question, but you're a congregation facing flooding, concerned about their stormwater runoff, want to know what funding is available currently to help address those issues and concerns, please put your name and your congregation name in the chat, and we'll follow up with you before the post-recording of this session gets sent out to all those that registered. So I just want to make that an open call to action. There are some really great programs, and if we don't use them, we lose them. So even if you're concerned and not sure if your congregation is eligible, again, please feel free to reach out, or you can also put it here, which I hope some folks did. I know many were kind enough to grab it at the beginning, but let me just put it in one last time. This is the link to our survey. And on question 5, you'll stop at question 5 and say, is there anything else you'd like to share? And that's when you can let me know you want to know more. And just leave your contact information and we'll follow up. So thank you so much for, again, trusting your Thursday evening. I always feel so privileged that, I have a lot of friends come in the room. And Bonnie, it's good to see you too. Thanks. Actually, I have to call out your comment. Please don't be mad I'm putting you on the spot. But actually, Apostle Thomas worked with Bonnie prior. And think it was an ark instead of a boat, and the
Yeah.
pictures justify that.
Well, I thanks Sarah. And when I saw that Apostle Thomas was the speaker, I couldn't miss this presentation. So I see he's still on the line. So Apostle Thomas, I just wanted to say a shout out and a hello. Um, when I started working for IPC over almost 11 years ago, he was the very first pastor in the first congregation that I ever spoke to engage in this work. So he holds a really special place in my heart. And he texted me that picture and said, I need an arc. And that's kind of how we got started on all of this work. So I just wanted to jump in here and say hello to Apostle Thomas, and thanks to everyone else. And you also mentioned Still Meadow Community Fellowship. I worked really closely with them as one of those initial resiliency hubs, and have just seen that whole program. So just a really valuable resource for all these communities that have churches that can serve in this wonderful capacity. So I think it was Pastor Michael from Still Meadow that told me, when you go to seminary school and you learn to become a pastor, no one teaches you that you're going to be the first line in disaster relief, right? But churches tend to rush into that role with no training, and really they're just doing it because this is what they feel called to do. So to be able to work with congregations to empower them to be prepared for that ahead of time, and then let their community know, it's a blessing for both sides, for the communities and the churches. So,
And you said that so beautifully. Thank you. I always feel like I'm gonna cry when I see you. um, Thank you for sharing, and just like the rich history and then the support, and just also like doubling down on that message that we are looking to congregations to be the lead, right? You are traditionally the moral compass. So all that you do reflects in the environment, the people, the communities, and we want to support all those efforts. So Rebecca, sorry to go back and forth, but if you don't mind putting our closing slide up. And again, we're going to be following up next week with a recording of this. There'll be resources, links to the organizations, how to contact our speakers. Thanks so much for this. This is actually one of my favorite pictures. I always love the bay and sunsets. That's just my thing. I know it's so cliche, but it's true. And this is a short, sweet prayer to end the evening and just ground us all on this topic. Creator God, thank you for the waters of the earth, for the life-sustaining rains, lakes, and deep oceans. Keep us mindful of how precious they are and how vulnerable they are. Help us to work together for clean water and for the sharing of it with those who need it today. Amen. So thanks again. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of a beautiful evening. And thank you again. Thanks so much for coming, Marianne. Thanks, hi, Sue.